Hello and welcome to the first video of the channel. On this channel we are going to be covering World War II vehicles all the way up to modern day vehicles. Today we are starting with a very well known tank, especially in the War Thunder community, the German Sturmtiger. It was in service from August 1944 to 1945. It was a retired Tiger 1 chassis that had a 380mm rocket-propelled mortar on it. It saw fighting in the Warsaw Uprising, the Battle of the Bulge, and the Battle of the Reichswald. And it had a couple really cool things with it. It was a relatively heavy tank at 68 tons, and it was only a crew of 5. You had a driver, your radio operator, 2 loaders, and your commander/gunner. Its main armament was a 380mm RW-61 rocket launcher, and its secondary armament was one 7x92mm MG34. Here's a decent image of what it looked like. It had a crane in the back to help it reload rounds because they were too heavy for a normal person to carry. Because the mortar itself was 38 centimeters, as you can see there. It was only made for urban combat, and its shell could demolish whole buildings and defensive structures. Here's a couple more images so you can see how big it is compared to a person. It was surprisingly heavily armored. This vehicle you see here is part of a Russian collection. It's a captured Sturmtiger. Here's your armor thickness. So its superstructure front was 150 millimeters with a 47-degree slope. Its bull front, without the additional plate that it had, was 150 millimeters, or 100 millimeters without the additional plate with only a sloped angle of 25 degrees. Its super side and rear upper hull structure in the rear itself were 82 millimeters. The top of the hull front is 70, lower hull front is 62, lower hull side and rear are 62, and the hull floor is 28. The 380mm projectile was a breech-loading barrel which fired a short-range rocket-propelled projectile roughly 1.5 meters or 4 feet 11 inches long. There were a variety of round types with a weight of up to 376 kilograms or 892 pounds with a maximum range of up to 6,000 meters or 20,000 feet. They either had 125 kilograms, 276 pounds of explosive charge, or a shaped charge used against fortifications, which could penetrate up to 2.5 meters, 8 feet 2 inches, of reinforced concrete. The stated range of the former was 5,650 meters, or 6,180 yards. A normal charge first accelerated the projectile to 45 meters a second, or 150 feet a second. The 40-kilogram 88 rocket charge then boosted this to about 250 meters a second, or 820 feet per second. So this tank could penetrate through American, British fortifications and demolish any buildings or fortifications it would come across. As you can see here, the design of the rocket system did cause a couple problems. The hot rocket exhaust could not be vented into the fighting compartment, nor could the barrel withstand the pressure if the gases were not vented. Therefore, a ring of ventilation shafts was put around the barrel, which channeled the exhaust and gave the weapon something of a pepperbox appearance. But due to the bulkiness of the ammunition, only 14 rounds could be carried internally, one of which was already loaded, another in the loading tray, and the rest were carried in 2 storage racks to help with the loading of ammunition into the vehicle. With a loading crane was fitted in the rear of the superstructure next to the loading hatch. Even then, the entire 5-man crew had help with the loading. As you can imagine, having all 5 of your crew members outside of this tank caused many issues. So, here's its combat service. It was intended to serve as a heavy infantry support vehicle, rendering assistance with attacks on heavily fortified or built-up areas. By the first time the Sturmtiger was available, however, Germany had lost the initiative, with the Reichswehr being almost exclusively on the defensive rather than the offensive. So 3 new panzer companies were raised to operate the Sturmtiger. The full German name is there, Sturmtiger Panzer Sturmmotor Kompen. I am so sorry if I butchered that, which translates to the Armored Assault Mortar Company. They had the company 1000, 1001, and 1002. They were originally supposed to be equipped with 14 vehicles, but this figure was later reduced to 4 each, divided into 2 platoons. So they fought on August 13th, 1944, they fought during the Warsaw Uprising, with 2 vehicles, as did the prototype in a separate action, which may have been the only time the Sturmtiger was used in its intended role. It was commanded by Captain von Gottenberg. In the 1002 was commanded by Lieutenant Zippel. Followed in September and October, both groups 1001 and 1002 served during the Ardennes offensive with a total of 7 Sturmtigers. After this offensive, the Sturmtiger were used in the defense of Germany, mainly on the Western Front. During the Battle of the Bridge at Remmingen, German forces mobilized the Sturmtigers 1001 and 1002 brigades, a total of 7 units, to take part in the battle. The Sturmtiger were originally tasked with using the mortars against the bridge itself, though it was discovered that they lacked the accuracy needed to hit the bridge. During this action, one of the Sturmtigers, 1001 near Durant in Exchen, allegedly hit a group of sanctuary Sherman tanks in a village with the 380mm round, resulting in nearly all the Shermans being put out of action, and their crews killed or wounded. This is the only tank-on-tank combat the Sturmtiger was ever recorded engaging in. The running gear of the Sturmtiger was identical to that of the Tiger I, with the exception that only the prototype had the rubber-tired wheels. The production of the Sturmtigers were supposed to be fitted with the rubber-tired road wheels to help manage the additional 8-ton load of the Sturmtiger over that of the Tiger I. But they all are seen with the steel-rimmed wheels common to late Tigers. The rubber-tired wheels are one of the identification features of the original prototype Sturmtiger, even though these were later changed to the steel-rimmed wheels. The engine remained the same as the Tiger I. The Maybach HL 230 TRM P45. With an additional weight, the Sturmtiger was marked slower and less maneuverable than the Tiger I. If a later production damaged Tiger I tank was used to build the Sturmtiger, it would be powered by the more powerful Maybach HL 230 TRM P45 V12 700 horsepower petrol engine. I've already covered the armor and the optics, so we won't go too in depth about that. Here's what the driver's seat of the Sturmtiger looked like. As you can see, I know I wouldn't want to be driving this thing. That does not look very comfortable. Here's the optics that you see there, and then a little hole right here that I'm not sure what that is for. I would guess a side optic. Here's the overview. This little hatch right here that you can see here is the loading port. So originally the Army requested a 210mm howitzer, but with no suitable options, they turned to the current gun in there, which is a 380mm, which was a ship-mounted anti-aircraft weapon used for firing a cable-spooled parachute anchor to create a hazard for aircraft. The second, the RTG-38, was a land-based system. Both systems had been made by Rheinmetall in Dussenhof, but they had desired by MOHRA, Guttenberg. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. It was the RTG-38 which formed the basis of the weapon of the Sturmtiger. With a range of 3,000 meters, it had originally been planned for use on coastal installations by the Kriegsmarine firing depth charges against submarines. For use in a vehicle, it was to find some demolition gun that had been modified for that role. This modification work was carried out by Rheinmetall and their Solmirda works. Here's 2 of the weapons that were mentioned in that paragraph. I don't know. Okay, so this is the 38 centimeter. This is the RAG-43 38 centimeter ROG M43 and R10 on the left side here. On the right side So the example in Norway appears unmarked or unlegible. Source, yeah, so this one doesn't tell me what it is. We know what this one is. We do not know what this one is. This is believed to be an RAG-43 mounted for its original purpose. This is what the loading in the sturmtiger looked like. That looks like, imagine having to reload and some dude's just waiting there. That is not going to be very safe. Here's the projectile. That's a lot of, that's all explosive filler right there. That is a lot. So this is the camouflage sturmtiger used during the Warsaw Uprising. This is the late war ambush camouflage. And this is just an illustration of it receiving ammo. We've gone through its combat. Here's a photo of it firing. That is a massive plume of smoke. And here's a destroyed vehicle. Let's see. It was shot at least 3 times in the rear by a Sherman tank of C Company's 743 Tank Battalion, which was supporting the attack by the 117th Infantry, part of the U.S. 30th Division. With the 80mm thick rear armor penetrated and the vehicle struck, the crew bailed out. All had survived these multiple strikes, but one crew member was shot and killed by the infantry as they fled. This vehicle was recovered on March 1945 by the 464th Ordnance Evacuation Company and shipped to Great Britain for evaluation. The vehicle was later scrapped, but the gun remains on display at the Tank Museum in Bovington. That's it immobilized in a ditch. Here's a photo of the actual round being fired out. I believe these were subsonic rounds, so I'm pretty sure these were easy to see. Here's a modern day image of the size of the shell and the tank. You can see that this was a incredibly innovative way to use a damaged Tiger hull chassis. I don't know if I would personally ever want to deal with this or be in charge of this, but I mean, it's not too bad. Well, thank you guys for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. I'll show you all a couple more images just while we end this video, but if you liked this video, please like and subscribe and give me a comment on what you think I should do next. I'll see y'all in another video.